We will, inshallah, begin with the recitation of Quran by Ammar.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد آتينا لقمان الحكمة أن اشكر لله ومن يشكر فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن الله غني حميد. وإذ قال لقمان لابنه وهو يعظه يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم. ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حملته أمه وهنا على وهن وفصاله في عامين أن اشكر لي ولوالديك إلي المصير. وإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بي ما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا واتبع سبيل من أناب إلي ثم إلي مرجعكم فأنبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا بني إنها إن تك مثقال حبة من خردل فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأت بها الله إن الله لطيف خبير. يا بني أقم الصلاة وأمر بالمعروف وانه عن المنكر واصبر على ما أصابك إن ذلك من عزم الأمور. ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور. واقصد في مشيك واغضض من صوتك إن أنكر الأصوات لصوت الحمير. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Thank you very much. We'd next like to welcome Sheikh Nuru with a loud salawat. Today he'll be talking to us about analysing the rights of children in Islam. Again, let's give him a loud salawat before he begins.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد طب القلوب ودوائها ونور أبصارها وعلى أهل بيته الذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. يقول الرسول الأكرم صلى الله عليه وآله كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. First of all is to thank Almighty Allah for giving us this wonderful moment to have this very important interactive session on analyzing the rights of our children. My dear brothers and sisters, this topic is one of those topics that I'm passionate about, not just as a father, but because of some experiences that I myself went through when I was growing. The tradition I've just quoted is a beautiful tradition. And I'm sure it's a known tradition, if not to all of us, but to most of us here. The Holy Prophet beautifully mentioned, كلكم راع. You are all like shepherds. وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. And each and every one of you will be questioned of what we are given to take care of. Typical example will be questioned how we take care of our children. Husband will be questioned about his wife, and wife will be questioned about her husband. A leader will be questioned about his followers, and followers will be questioned as to their relationship or how they relate to their leaders. So كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Now I seek to discuss this very important topic in two ways. And in between, I will stop and ask you some questions to make it more interactive. First thing I would like to do is to share some introduction to the topic. And then the last stage is to discuss the topic into somewhat details. Inshallah. You see, our beloved fourth Imam, in his known book, Risalat al-Huquq, he made it very clear. Our children are our extensions. They are extension to our existence. And this is where philosophers come also. And they say each and every person has two major existences. First one is physical, and the second one is recognized or extended existence. Physical existence is like the number of years one has or holds. 50 years, 70 years, 80 years, that's our physical existence. The most important existence is not the physical. Yes, physical is prerequisite to that most important one. It is the recognized existence. Examples of recognized existence: your knowledge. Whatever field you are expert in is something additional to your physical existence. You are a medical doctor. That knowledge is an extension to your physical existence. You are a mother. that motherhood is an extension to your physical existence. You are a businessman. That richness or that wealth is an extension to your physical existence. And philosophers, when they analyze this, they say the highest form of anyone's extended existence or recognized existence are children. And that is why Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam mentioned, you will be remembered by your children. Therefore, this calls for all of us to investigate the rights of our children. Because in most cases, we hear from people like us, the preachers, will only draw people's attention to the right of parents. We hardly hear people talking about the rights of children. Hence, you'll hear some parents saying, I will give you ark. Meaning you, I will declare you disobedient, and may my curse be on you. Although Islamically, if a parent, na'udhu billah, may Allah forbid, curse their sons and daughters without any valid reason, that curse is null and void, it's nothing really. So it's important we understand the right of these children given to us by Allah as gifts. Because from the Islamic perspective, failing to take care of our children as per the dictate of Quran and the traditions of our beloved Prophet, one will stand to question answers, or one will stand to question, to answer questions on the day of Qiyamah. So now let me ask you. As I said, I want to make it more interactive. Say your son comes to you, or your grandson, or your niece or nephew, and asks you, what are my rights towards you? What will be your first reaction? I need a good number of you to answer this. The boy sitting next to you comes to you. Say, Dad or Uncle. MashaAllah. What are my rights in Islam? Oh no, your non-Muslim friends meet you. So look at the United Nations Charter, right of the children. Look at the laws of our countries, right of the children. But I only hear right of the parents. What will be your reactions? Any response from the ladies, from the gents? Giving them a good name. A good name. Okay, giving them a good name. Fantastic. That's one. Any other response? I need more responses. Teach them between right and wrong. Teach them between right and wrong. Easier said than done, isn't it? But that's true. I agree. I agree. Treat them with the respect. True. True. Any other response? Feed them, yeah, provide based on your capability. True, man. That's what people are good at, isn't it? Listen to them is their right. Teach them good akhlaq. So now we need to define what is good akhlaq. But definitely it's a right. Any other? Okay, okay? Faith. Okay, give them faith. Teach them Quran. Teach them Ahlul Bayt. Teach them the love of Allah. These are good.
Treat them like kings for the first 7 years. Treat them like kings for the first 7 years.
Treat them like kings for the first. That's the known hadith, yeah? True. I will quote the hadith later on, but that's right. Are they... you tell me you're right.
Teach us the skills we need to survive in the world.
MashaAllah. Very good. Teach us some skills we need to survive in this challenging world. The world with high cost of living and high political instability. That's very important. Any other response? Then we move forward, inshallah. I have other questions later on I will ask. Yeah, make them independent, make them, stand on their own. They cannot always depend on you. So teach them how to catch the fish. Don't catch the fish for them. That's very important. You see, my brothers and sisters, Islam discusses the right of children on 3 levels. First level, before birth. Second level, when the child is expected, meaning during the time of pregnancy. And third level, after delivery, after birth. Before birth, during pregnancy, and after birth. In fact, some scholars hold the view that upbringing of a child is 50% before birth and 50% after birth. So anyone who does well before birth find it somewhat easy after birth. And anyone who, for whatever reason, is unable to do well before birth, it doesn't mean that he will not do well, but he will need to put extra effort. Now let's examine this. And the good thing is, inshallah, later on you will have the chance to ask me questions. Before birth, Islam refers to that right as al-huquq al-i'dadi. Al-i'dadiyah, preparatory rights. And there are 3 rights children have over their parents years or months before their birth. What comes to your mind? Right before birth. Tell me, what comes to your mind? Choosing the right spouse. Excellent. Excellent. And I will inshallah qualify it with a tradition from the Holy Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. Absolutely, because environment plays crucial role in shaping the personality of a child. Any other right before birth? Now let's examine. Kindly pay attention, brothers and sisters. The first right Islam calls Haqqul Iqtirab. Iqtirab from the word like garib. But there is a point here, there is a tradition. Simple translation to that. A child has a right to be born healthy. Healthy. It is the right of every child before he or she arrives in this world. There's a tradition from the Holy Prophets. In fact, you look at Al-Kafi and even Bihar mention this tradition. اغتربوا ولا تضوحوا. Eghitaribu, simple translation means what? Go outside, go away. Don't get it from the near of kins. You know, they used to get married among themselves, families. They used to get married among families, which Islam allows. There's nothing wrong. But then the Holy Prophet one day looked at them and he said to them, why don't you go outside and marry? So that if there is some sicknesses in those families that you are marrying, you don't multiply the sicknesses. So it is the right of every child to be born healthy. That's why I support and like the idea of knowing each other's medical status before you get married. I know some find it annoying when they go to their communities and the communities tell them, you know what? Know the status of each other. It could be any form of sickness that can transmit easily. So therefore, it is the right of, and today, alhamdulillah, through medical advancement, medical practitioners are able to protect children from certain sicknesses when it is detected earlier on. And Islam mentioned this how many years ago? Many years ago. It is the right of a child. And we cannot take it for granted. Violating this right is violating primary rights of a child from an Islamic perspective. That's number one. Second right, our mother beautifully mentioned, Haqqul Ikhtiyar. These children, before coming to this world, they had the right for you to be comfortable introducing the world to their mother and to be comfortable introducing their father to the world. How many people, when they get somewhere, they cannot say, this is my wife. Some cannot say, this is my husband. For whatever reason, known to them. So that is why the Holy Prophet, in Wasa'il, even in our Sunni brothers' book, تَخَيَّرُوا لِنُطْفَتِكُمْ فَإِنَّ الْعَرَكَ دَسَّاسٍ. He said, choose where, excuse my word, where you drop that liquid in. Because Arak means sweat. Sweat can be harmful sometimes. In other words, the Holy Prophet ﷺ is inviting us. Don't just get married for the sake of getting married. There are people who succumb to pressure and they get married out of pressure. It is the right of your son and daughter that in future you can place your hand on your chest and say, you know, I'm proud I chose this mother for you. I'm proud I chose this father for you. We have to play our part and Allah will take care of the rest. Allah granted us aql and senses to be able to exercise our free will and to choose. That's second right. What do you think will be the third right? After I've mentioned these two rights, you should know the third right. What's the third right? A bit controversial. Haqqu Shari'iyya. To be born out of wedlock. To be born out of formal relationship. Because Islam recognizes if, say, for example, people were not Muslims and they got married in whatever tradition which is recognized as formal marriage, when they become Muslims, there is no need for that marriage to be conducted again. It is the right of a child to be born out of a formal relationship, formal marriage. So these are the three main preparatory rights of a child. Now, hukukul janiniya, embryonic rights, is the second right. And here we have two rights. When a mother conceives, when the child is expected, the child has two rights. What do you think are the two rights? Tell me. The two. Yeah, absolutely. So nothing that would harm the baby. Absolutely. This goes with what we mentioned earlier on. Health is very important. Because there are some of us who will focus only on the religious growth of the children and we ignore the health of the child. It's a package. And Islam expects us to take care of this. Any other right, embryonic right. Mom is now pregnant. She's expecting the child. The family is so excited, especially if it's a first child. Everybody is excited. I guess the spouse's behavior is crucial. We need to create conducive atmosphere, especially for the mother. How you relate to her is very important because that can affect the child. That can definitely affect the child. Any other rights? To prepare for him, absolutely. Thank you. So I like it when the Boys, mashallah, respond to prepare and welcome the child. Like the way Abdul Muttalib prepared for the coming of the Holy Prophet. Any other right? Woman, she's expecting. Shopping is the right. Baby shower. What are other rights? So there are two rights here, in addition to what you've all mentioned, which I found through my research and reading. The first one is what? Haqqul hayati wal baqa. This is Islam. The child has a right to live, a right of survival. So this go with abortion, concept of abortion. Islam, abortion is only allowed when the pregnancy is detrimental to the health of the mother or the child. And of course, some of our jurists even mentioned after 12 weeks of pregnancy, it becomes very difficult to remove. You are not allowed to remove unless if it's totally beyond the control of the mother. So the first right is what? Haqqul hayat wal baqa. The child has right to live. He has right to survive. Now you are expecting the child. And the second one is what? Haqqul nafaqa, which Doc mentioned. The right to provide lawful food to the woman. Something lawful. I gave a talk recently. I mentioned something, people were not happy. I said, some of you don't pay your taxes. You are eating haram. Some were not happy with me, unfortunately. This like 2-3 weeks ago, I was like aggressive. I said, when we talk of halal, haram, you guys are only looking at, can I eat Hindu food? Can I eat that? That's what you guys are looking at. But how many of you are rigging the taxpayer, the tax master, the receiver? How many of us don't deserve universal credit and we take? It's haram. How many of us don't deserve finances and we take? By so doing, we are depriving those who deserve. I lived in Nairobi as a resident imam for like 4 years. There was this old man in Nairobi, now he's late. One day he called me and he called all his children. We sat, the wife, the children, and he was sitting. He said, Sheikh, I call you for only one thing. So I was waiting. What is this? He said, I want you to bear witness, Sheikh, and of course Allah bear witness, that whatever I fed my children and my wife up to date, I can guarantee are lawful. Can they guarantee their children and their wives what they are feeding them are lawful? Some of the children started crying. So it is the right of our children to ensure that we provide what is lawful. Now the last rights are the right of our children after birth. Al-huquq ba'da al-wilada. There are so many rights here. You mentioned one of them, giving them good names. We shouldn't give them names just for the sake of giving them. Because the Holy Prophet mentioned, among the rights of a child is for the parent to give that child good name, meaningful name. Obviously, the best names are the names of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, the beautiful attributes of Allah. Then the names of the Prophet and the messengers of Allah. And then, of course, come to the names of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam, or any other meaningful and good name. We shouldn't just give names because we are fond of those names. We need to give names because those names are meaningful. That's one. Number two is haqqur rida'a, the right of breastfeeding. It is the right of every child to be breastfed by his mom if she's able to do so. Hence, the Holy Quran makes it very clear. If even the woman charges the husband for the sake of breastfeeding, there is no problem. فَأَنْفِقُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ. Quran mentioned, give them. That to tell us how important it is when it comes to breastfeeding. One tradition of Imam Jafar beautifully mentioned, when a lady breastfeeds, she should give right and left. Because right is regarded as food and left is regarded as water. But whatever mother breastfeed her son or daughter, it will come as a result of the food she eats and the environment she lives in. When she's provided with lawful, the children are going to grow properly. And when she's provided with something unlawful, may Allah forbid, then of course it will not be the sin of the children, it will be the sin of the parent by violating the rights of their children. The third right, which is very important, and I seek your indulgence here humbly. It is the right of every child to understand stages of their growth. As a parent, we need to understand the stages of the growth of our children. And the tradition you reminded us of earlier on highlight on the stages of the growth of every child. And the tradition is of different versions. One version will tell us, وَلَدُكَ رَيْحَانَتُكَ سَبَعَ وَخَادِمُكَ سَبَعَ ثُمَّ صَدِيقُكَ أَوْ أَدُوُّكَ. He said, your son or your child is like a bundle of flour to you in the first 7. Then the second 7, he said khadim, servant. Servant doesn't mean literal servant. It means time to teach, time to instill values. Then Amir al-Mu'minin said, after the second 7, the child might be your friend or your enemy. After 14 going to 21, our sons and daughters may be our friends, or they may be our enemies, depending on how we make good use of the first and the second 7. That's why one tradition of Amir al-Mu'minin again mentioned, La'ib ibnaka sab'a. Play with your children in the first 7. Don't be harsh. Don't be too strict. And then Amir al-Mu'minin said, in the second 7, what do? Teach them. Teach. Instill values. And then the third 7, Amir al-Mu'minin said, well, they become your advisors. So, number 3, it is the right of our children to understand these stages of their growth. Number 4, it is their right after birth for all of us to understand their moods. You as parent, I see good young parents here, you need to understand moods of your children. If we do not understand their moods, we will not be able to give them the right upbringing. Tradition of the Prophet tells us, لِلْقُلُوبِ إِقْبَالٌ وَإِدْبَارٌ فَإِذَا أَقْبَلَتْ فَاحْمِلُوهَا عَلَى الْفَرَائِدِ وَالنَّوَافِلِ وَإِذَا أَدْبَرَتْ فَاحْمِلُوهَا عَلَى الْفَرَائِدِ فَقَطْ. Prophet said, each and every person is of 2 moods, good mood and bad mood. Sometimes you wake up in the morning, you don't want to talk to anyone. For whatever reason known to you. Maybe nightmare, I don't know. Sometimes you just want to be alone. Children also have the same mood. So Rasulullah said, people are of 2 moods. Then he said, whenever you realize you are in a good mood, do the wajibat and the optional prayers. But he said, when you are in a bad mood, just do the wajibat and leave the optional. Scholars analyze this tradition. They say, if you want to do the optional when you are not in good mood, you may destroy your soul. Hence, scholars come forward and said, we need to be able to monitor the moods of our kids. When they are in a good mood, give them more. Instill those values. Teach them. But when they are in bad mood, don't force them. Don't force them. Because when you force them, you will destroy the bridge you are building. The next one is what, my dear brothers and sisters, after birth, is to instill discipline, adab. Teach them how to talk. It is your duty, it is my duty. Today people don't want to become public speakers. They go for public speaking workshops and training. Teach them how to talk. Teach them how to dialogue. Teach them how to interact with people. The first Imam sat with his beloved son, Imam al-Hassan. And he said to him, Qalbul hadath kal-ardil khaliya. He said, the heart of a young child is like a fertile ground. Whatever you put in, it grows. Then he said, فَبَادَرْتُكَ بِالْأَدَبْ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَكْسُوا قَلْبَكَ وَيَنْشَغِلْ لُبَّكَ. He said to Imam Hassan, then I rushed in instilling values in you, adab, before your heart becomes busy. So it is the right of our children to instill these values in them. And how do you do so? You do it indirectly, not directly. And then the last but not certainly the least is to teach them. Some of you mentioned. Teach them their faith, their religion, and teach them dunya. But alhamdulillah, when it comes to dunya, good number of us are doing very well. Teach them akhirah. Imam Jafar Sadiq mentioned, Allimuhum min ilmina ma yantafi'una bih. Teach them from our knowledge what will benefit them. And so in conclusion, brothers and sisters, especially those of us who are blessed with children, note that we have roles to play. And our bringing requires us to invest time in them. It is not a bringing when a child is crying, you throw phone to the child and then you get busy with something. That's not a bringing. It is not a bringing in front of your child, you are talking ill of someone, backbiting. It's not a bringing when you push your child to go to madrasa and he or she hardly sees you even reciting Quran. Whatever you want to see in them, let them see in you first. Wallahi, when they see in you, by the time you realize, they are doing it. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد.
Thank you very much. We now have some time for question and answers. Does anyone have a question?
Yeah, ask questions. Otherwise, I have got a lot of questions to ask. I've got so many questions here.
So the Prophet knew that marrying within the family is not a good thing.
I will explain it.
And him and Imam Ali were cousins, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes and gives his daughter to Imam Ali.
Salam Allah alayhi.
Something wrong there, right?
Not really. I will explain.
Okay.
So obviously, Prophet is not saying marrying from close is wrong. He was trying to highlight that these are not the only options you have. Because there was a time when everybody was just marrying from close. My cousin, my niece, my this. Prophet said, go out. But my understanding of that tradition, as explained earlier on, is that no, it's not just about marrying from outside. Prophet is trying to talk about health and the importance of health. That you marry, yes, but make sure your child has to come to this world healthy, or at least protected, as doctors mentioned today.
But he could have led by example.
Obviously, he married from outside also, Prophet, isn't it? If I look at his marriage.
He his daughter married.
Yeah, so that's one example, isn't it? Look at he himself, Prophet. If you want to look at the old Prophet, give Imam Ali, I agree. So that's one example. But look at all the wives the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi married. He could have taken from somewhere within the family also. And even if you look at prophets of Allah, examine their lives. They took from outside. Some of them took from within. Look at Ahlul Bayt alaykum salatu wassalam. How many of them took from close? Most of them took from outside. Some even from different continent altogether. Although that time there was no demarcations of continent. So yeah, so all the two acceptable in Islam. As I said, the garad of the tradition is to ensure that when your daughter or your son is going to get married, you don't have to know what is happening, but you need to encourage them to know their medical status so that it makes it easy for the child they are going to be blessed with, inshallah. Ahsant. Next question. I have so many questions, so if you don't ask. Wa alaikum salam.
My question is, sometimes you see children being brought up by the same two parents in the same household, and one child is extremely obedient, follows the right path, and then another child's, and we see that also like with prophets and imams as well.
Nuh alayhi salam.
Yeah, alayhi salam, where their children are.
Good question. Really good question. This is a very difficult question, man. It is true. Sometimes in one family, you see this child hyperactive. So being hyper is not a bad thing really. But this one very calm and chilled. One example. I will come to your example, which will be the last example I'll give, and then I will respond. Another example is, sometimes you find in the same family, siblings, one is very generous. One shares. But the other one, in Swahili they say apana. No. You tell him share, he runs away or she runs away. That example is there. And of course the example you've just given. Same mother, same father. This one, respectful, humble, down to earth, listening to the parent. But that one, no. Doesn't listen at all. Where is the missing link? What's wrong? So from my understanding, there are so many factors in play here when it comes to shaping the personality of every child. Number one, obviously, it begins with who the wife is and who the husband is. It's very, very important. Typical example, you look at Nuh alayhi salam. Good person. But the wife, Quran gives us an example. She wasn't that good. And as a result, she influenced the child more than Nuh alayhi salam. This is the son of the Prophet of Allah. But look at what happened. So, wife is important. Husband is important. But sometimes, look, one does due diligence. Wife good, husband good. What happened? Pregnancy. 9 months pregnancy. Each and every day of pregnancy is crucial. It's important. In fact, there is a, excellent teaching in Islam about that. The mood when you are expecting that child. Your temper when you are expecting that child. How you talk. Typical example I give you. Say a mother is pregnant and she lies a lot during that pregnancy. It can affect. A mother is pregnant and she gossips a lot. There are traditions, this thing. I'm not just saying it for saying sake. She gossips a lot. It can affect the child. A mother is pregnant and she goes to an environment which is not good environment. Really not pleasing environment from the perspective of God. It can affect also. No. A mother is pregnant and she listens to things. Because we are told this sense of hearing is door to our hearts. She listened. Maybe when she was expecting that other child, she was not listening to that. She was not lying. She was not gossiping. It was only Quran and other good stuff. Charity. Then obviously you don't expect the children to be the same. No. Father comes in while she's pregnant and he just throws tantrum anyhow. He talks to her anyhow. He makes her sad and upset. That can affect pregnancy. During the time of conception, that time also the mood of the father and the mother plays crucial role. And so there are so many factors in play here. It's not just one factor. And that is why sometimes you can see children are of different behavior, if you like, and different moods. And obviously, environment also plays crucial role. Maybe this son or daughter, you expose her to some amazing environment. Could be Muslim environment, could be non-Muslim environment, but amazing environment. But this one, the environment is not good. And there are different forms of environment. Friend cycles is an environment. Mosque is an environment. School, nursery is an environment. So all these are very, very important in shaping children. And that is why Islam, when it comes to family, pays special attention to family. Because it is our family that produce whatever we have in our communities. So if you don't get family right, we get everything distracted, unfortunately. Yeah. Thank you. Next question.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Very interesting talk. Could I ask you to just expand a little bit on the different stages?
No.
So what are the stages, what ages, and what are we supposed to do in those stages as well?
Ahsantum. No, this is a very powerful question. So we have this beautiful tradition which is known to all of us. First 7, second 7, and third 7. First 7. What is expected of all of us as parents is to have fun with the children. Enjoy their presence and let them enjoy your presence. In fact, today if you look at Western world, when we take our children to nursery, to crèche, they make sure they play a lot there. It's just that some mosques, I don't know of Mahfil Ali, when children start talking, people give them some faces which if it's like the world is breaking apart, unfortunately. Yeah. But the first 7, we need to play with them. We need to, make ourselves children when we are in front of them. فَلْيُصَابُ بِهِمْ, one tradition said. Whoever is given a child, you also behave like a child to them. Because by so doing, you are building their confidence. You are building them. So first 7, really, you are not expected to do much. It's just to spend time with them. And then teach them with the senses, because the first 7, what works more are their senses. You want to talk, Salah time, they don't go, you shout at them, you're destroying those children. And I give you a typical example. A family visited the Holy Prophet in Medina. Sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And one of the family member had a child. And normally Prophet would take the child and will pray for the child. Now, when Prophet took the child unfortunately messed the clothes of the Prophet. Now, all those sitting there, they started looking at the father with a certain look. Then Prophet looked at them and he said, "You have destroyed the soul of this child." How do you expect the child to know when to free himself or not? And so therefore, first 7 really, as parent also, this I try to apply it and I see it working. Spend good time with them, play with them. When they are in their mood to make salah, let them do. Sometimes they are not in their mood. And I know some parents are a bit strict. They want to force them, come, pray. No, relax, chill. Let them be. Second 7, Habibi, is the time to teach. You've now developed them a bit in first 7 by playing with them, so you've instilled your love in their hearts. Now they are confident in you. They are not scared of you. Because sometimes if you don't take care in the first 7, by the time they get to second 7, they become scared of you. And what I've seen, my experience is that they are not scared of the mothers, but they're scared of the fathers. So first 7 is really to build that love. So that when they enter second 7, they accept the teaching. They accept it from you. And if we do well in that second 7, then wallahi mu'mineen and mu'minat, third 7 will be easy. Your daughter of 15 years will sit and she'll be advising you.
So what would you recommend teaching in that second 7?
Excellent. Good question. Obviously, dunya is there. But I want to share some very practical tips on this. Number 1, at-tarbiyah qabla at-tanmiyah. Kindly pay attention to these points. Instill in them values before development. What is that? You've got value. You've got development. Tarbiyah and tanmiyah. What is tarbiyah? What is value? Love for Allah, love for justice, love doing good. Keep reminding them. What is development? I want you to become a doctor. I want you to become a nurse. I want you to pass your GCSE. I want you to smash it. So today, parent, that's what we instill more in our children, which is good. There's nothing wrong. But Islam expects you to implement that teaching of Quran. لِيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ. First is tazkiyah, then ta'lim al-kitab. Instill that value. At-tarbiyah qabla at-tanmiyah. Number 2, at-tarbiyah ghayr mubashir. I bring them in an indirect way. What is indirect way? Before you talk about Quran, let them see you reciting Quran. Do it. Because Prophet taught us. Teach them about Allah, teach them about Quran, teach them about us and Ahlul Bayt. But before you do it, let them see you doing it in there. What I'm doing is a direct way. The impact of this is very less. It becomes more impactful when you all see me implementing what I preach. So, at-tarbiyah ghayr mubashir. You want to teach Quran? Let them see Quran in you. You want to teach Salah? Let them see Salat in you. You want to teach respect? Let them see you respecting. That's number 2. Number 3, the most important. Al-insijam bayna al-jil al-jadid wal-qadim. Is to reconcile between your time and their time. How do you do so? Because obviously there are 2 generations we have here. You go to some communities, disintegration is big because you are failing to reconcile between generations. Now let it start in your house. Your child now is clocking 10, 8, 9, 10, 11, clocking teenage. You need to be able to reconcile. How do you reconcile? Number 1, hawar, dialogue, talk to them. Don't ever think they are young, they don't understand this. Sit. Why you don't pray Salah? Tell me why. No, because I'm too tired. Then you talk to them. And when they talk, pay attention. Otherwise, you will kill their confidence. Don't think whatever they are saying is rubbish. So you need dialogue between them. Number 2, you need patience. They will not be like you overnight. You need to be patient. And number 3, show them true love. True love means what? Pay unconditional attention. So what do I teach them? Number 1, I teach them Allah's love. Love. Not fear. Love. And how do you teach Allah's love? Show them the mercy of Allah out there. The food they eat is out of the love of Allah. Dad is working out of the love of Allah. Teach them love of Allah. It starts in the house. Teach them about Ahlul Bayt. Teach them Quran. So I'm going to share practical how I do. As a parent, try, especially those who have young children, to have your own discussion cycle in the house. Even if it's once a month. Sit together, Quran, as family. Yes, they go to madrasa, I agree. But instill that in the house. And if you are in the house, instill praying together in the house. Some go to mosque to pray, fine. But if not, instill. You become imam, they stand behind you, pray. Instill that. If it is a day of the wilada of Ahl al-Bayt, identify some passages of a book about the life of that imam. Even during dining, discuss. The more you do that, the more you instill those values. And Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam, she used to send Imam al-Hasan al-Hussein read their biographies to the mosque to go and sit and listen to the verse of the Quran. And when they would come back, she will ask them, repeat what you heard from the mosque. So what I'm trying to say, we need to invest time in our children. If we do not invest time, when they grow, they will leave you. And I share this with fathers. Alhamdulillah, some of our fathers, mashallah, they've done their part. But more importantly, young fathers, one sheikh, you know him, but I can't mention the name. You all know that sheikh. There was a time we traveled together to a far place, very far country. I went for my preaching and he went for something else. So as we were coming back, he left his seat and he came sat next to me. He said, Sheikh Nuru, you're traveling too much. When do you have time for your children? He was asking me. I've got 5 children, by the way. So the first one is 18, and the last one is 6. So I've got 3 girls first and 2 boys last. When do you have time? I told him, it's very hard. Then he said, I have advice for you, Sheikh Nuru. He did like this. So what's your advice? He said, my 3rd child now is a boy and he's 19. He said 3 weeks ago, he came to me and he looked at me. He said, now you want to show love to me. You never show love to me. You've been traveling. That's why I'm not close to you. He said, I cried that day, Sheikh Nuru. He said, you never had time. I was always with mom. That's why when you tell me something you see, I don't follow. But when mom tells me, even if I don't want it, I do. Sometimes it's not the fault of the children. It's our fault. And with the girls, this is from the psychological perspective because I'm a psychology student. A girl, as she becomes teenager, she needs father more. She needs those hugs from the father. You don't give her, if you don't take her, she'll go out and look for it. So we need to understand the dynamics of upbringing. Investing time and your values in them, to me, is the best way. And then you'll be able to identify what works for you and what doesn't work. So the more time you invest, the better chance you stand to instill your love in them. And the relationship between you and your wife is the capital. Is the seed. Money. Good relationship with you and your wife, children grow beautifully. No good relationship, it affects them. And so timing is very, very important. Sometimes you need to sacrifice certain things, not because you don't want, because you don't want your children to be affected. And let me share something for you to laugh. I know I've taken much of your time. A couple came to see me, I think 6 years ago, in Africa. I asked him, what's the problem? What's the matter? He said, recently we realized that our daughter, she watches some not good movies. And we're not happy. We don't know what to do. So I asked them, are you watching the movie also or not? Listen, this is a real story. Well, I asked them, are you watching? So they looked at each other and they smiled a bit. So they said, yeah, we watch when they are sleeping, Sheikh. We need to be honest with you, Sheikh. We watch when. I said, that's the reason. So then I asked them, how did you see that she was watching? Said, because look, we were sitting in a room doing something and we thought she was sleeping. But she was holding the phone and she was watching. When she would see us, she would cover the blanket on her. 3 times it happened. Then we realized, no, something was wrong. We checked and she was watching what we were watching. So I said, you have to sacrifice certain things. If you do not sacrifice and you think it's lawful, let me do it, it can affect your children. So timing, Abibi, is very, very important. And have a family timetable in the house, how you want to instill things in your children. Because at the end of the day, they're going to carry our values and values in future. We are done. They are the most important now. So we can't afford not to build the best future for them.
Thank you so much. I think we'll end there, if that's okay. But thank you so much for your talk. Can we end with a nice loud salawat again?
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Ahsan. Thank you. Ahsant, Habibi. Ahsan Allah ilaykum. Ahsant.